And 3, 2, 1, boom. And we're back with another episode of Socratic Gamers. This is your Socratic dialogue once again. This week we're talking about sampling. So, fun fact, Vish. So I guess, would you call it sampling? Well, it was definitely sampling what you did back in the day.
I did a mix of both, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So fun fact, Vish was really into sampling and producing way back.
We're talking about beats here. Yeah.
Beats, yeah. Why, what else is sampling and producing?
Drugs.
I was about to say sampling, drugs, and producing. That's so funny. That's so funny. I was literally about to say that. But yeah, so like I remember my vaguest memory is like you with that M Audio keyboard and pad, that big thing. Do you still have that?
Yeah, I still have that.
Okay, yeah, that thing.
I still have that.
And you'd make beats off of, so it wasn't GarageBand. You were using the Pro version, which is Logic.
Yeah.
So
I think I got that when I got the new computer. I decided to buy that.
The Dell, or what did you?
No. So like with the Dell, that's what I got, like different PC versions. Okay. I guess of something that does the same.
Yeah. Like, do you ever use like Fruity Loops?
I tried.
I
tried the trial. It's not something I was used to, so it was not intuitive enough for me. I guess.
For sure.
And I got like different types of programs that gave you samples as well. Okay. So like from that is where I started. Like I remember the first like the song that I made.
Like heaven.
Yeah. So like yes, like look, but that was that was I believe I got
rapped on it.
Yeah. But I got that beat was by sampling. Took it off a song. And I manipulated it a little bit so it doesn't sound the same.
That's funny.
So I didn't realize.
Did you know it was sampling, or were
I
you
didn't
just like,
know.
oh, I'm just chopping this up?
No, because I was like looking for a loop, and this was I guess like it was the like problem solving thinking was like let me take it off this song that I like, and then I just played with the tech that was there. Then it just happened to sound different than what it was. So it was just like playing around.
Right.
And then it's just by happenstance it happened. Yeah.
See, that's the fascinating thing. Like, okay, so that's what you were doing. How old were you? You were like really young.
I was like in high school.
Yeah.
That was high school.
That was some weird. And I remember that because you'd like bring us up to your room, like, and then we'd like listen to your beats. It's like, oh, this is so intense. Like,
right.
I wasn't playing guitar at the time, I don't think.
I remember you were. I
wasn't playing. All right, but and then I remember like we collaborated a bit. You'd like make these drum tracks that I would play guitar over. I still have them on SoundCloud, like the ones that we made.
Yeah.
But
okay, just to go back to that one, what I remember, because it was you heard like different times of that when I was making that song.
Okay.
And then like when I broke it down, I think I showed you. I'm not sure who else. Like,
and it
like,
helped too because you played piano.
Yeah.
You played piano like aggressively. You were like into that piano.
Right. Yeah. Like you didn't like when I started to break it down. Like look at all the different layers.
Okay.
I think I showed you that, right? And you're like, and I think it was either Brent or you is like, oh, you're spending like too much time, like you have a lot of time on your hands, like something like that.
Oh no, I don't think it was me.
No, probably Brentley. Yeah, probably Brentley. But it was like as a joking way, right? It was just like, but like now if you look at like that's how all songs are.
Yeah,
I didn't know I was doing that.
That's the alright. So that's the craziness.
Because you can keep on adding and adding and
adding layers. Yeah. So like, so I recently got back into like I wouldn't even. Okay, so back in the day, I thought people actually wrote these tracks all from scratch. So I was like, oh, I'm never gonna be that good at like piano or like saxophone or whatever.
Right.
Or like I'm not gonna work with all these musicians. So why don't I just play in bands? Because that's why I started doing it. Because I was like, okay, I can play guitar. And then from that, I was like, okay, well, I need a bass player, so let me learn how to play bass. And like I started to buy all these instruments myself. Remember, I had like the full band set up, and then people would just come over to practice. Remember that? So it was like that was my version of like beat production back then, because I thought people literally made these by themselves. So like when I try and make these beats myself, like through the trigger pads and stuff, I was like, oh, this is so difficult, right? Because because I was using Fruity Loops, and I was like, how do people make these these
I thought
crazy
that too.
beats?
I thought that too. Like I thought I was the one just like finding a way
cheating
to,
or something. Right?
Yeah.
So, but then that's why I started like we got like the mixer, and then we started recording our own like full songs because I was like, well, this is literally this is how they do it in the studio, right? And then so I recently got back into like music production because I was like, I was watching all these videos. I actually watched Masterclass. Timbaland's Masterclass.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's all you're doing? So I was like, oh, you're just like layering your own vocals and like you're just adding layers on layers on layers.
Right.
And like
But that was unique to Timbaland, right? Like
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. So I was like, I wasn't fully sold on going back to music, but then like I started watching like Genius's videos on like how they made the beats.
Right.
And every single one was like, yeah, I found this sample, this loop. And I'm like, what? That's all you guys are doing? Like, I literally thought, but I watched like so many music like producer videos where like they're like getting these samples, and I didn't realize what you're doing is you're getting these like old tracks and you're remastering them to use them again. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, you don't actually have to play these instruments. You just have to understand how to problem solve.
Yeah.
Or like puzzle solve. That's like I see sampling as like it's like a mixture of Photoshop and puzzle solving, right? Because you're like okay, the Photoshop is the layers you're adding, which is like the effects, or like you're detuning it, you're like upping the tempo, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or like let me add like a phaser so that it sounds like more futuristic. Let me up like the kick drum. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's like the Photoshop element, and then the puzzle solving is like you look at the grid and you're like, okay, where do I move these pieces around to make them sound really cool? But they're literally just layers. I'm not even playing instruments.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, it's interesting that watching even the old school people, that's how they did it, which is what you were doing.
Yeah.
So it's like, you were onto something.
Know. Yeah.
Right? You were onto something that's what you were onto the same thing that they were onto. It's sort of like, you ever hear this collective consciousness thing where it's like, if somebody solves a math problem in one part of the world, then somebody else will solve it in another part of the world.
Right.
It's almost like these are just like natural solutions that we would have come up with.
Right.
So like your natural solution is the exact same natural solution that they had.
Right.
But you thought you were cheating, right? And
Yeah.
I guess maybe back in the day, like people thought they were cheating too. You know, because like I watched Skrillex with The Doors, and they were like, "Oh, this isn't really music," because you're just like editing sounds on your laptop.
Okay. Right.
To make music, whereas we actually played music.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, are you a musician? Would you say that? Or are you a creative person? Like, what would you call that person that's like just like chopping things up?
Well, and I would say musician. That's why.
I would say musician too, but it's like you're more of like
it's a different
producers.
style.
Yeah. But that's why they have like producers. And then I've always been in, not always, but like ever since I started hearing it, it's like my first dubstep song was oh man, I forgot what it was called. Sierra Leone.
Okay.
By Mount Eden. Sydney played that for me. And then we were at the gym and I was like, what is this? It was like hip hop with no lyrics.
Okay.
Right? It was like,
yeah.
I should go back to that actually. Now that I think of it, it's like such a sick sound. But anyways, so like I was like, what is this style of music? I've never heard this before. And he's like, oh, Snoop Dogg's really into dubstep. Because like, but it makes sense because Snoop Dogg's a rapper, right? So he's just listening to beats all day.
Yeah.
And he's just rapping over it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so it's sort of like that's sort of like his training.
Right.
You know? Right. And then now we have like these YouTube channels that are fully dedicated to like study playlists, and they're just lo-fi hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because now that like it's fully demystified now in my mind. Because like I feel like if you want to understand how something works in this world, you have to like just do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because then you'll like have the firsthand experience. So like cutting up these samples now and making my own like mini tracks, it's sort of like, oh, this is what you're doing just on a grander scale.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can hear it now when you're like listening to beats and you're like chopping it up. I used to do that with Photoshop. I used to like always look at, this is how I got really good. I'd like look at something and I'd deconstruct it in my mind, like what are the layers they're using, what are the effects they're using. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then now like listening to music, I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, oh, there's the loop. Okay, there's the like there's the hi-hat that he added.
Yeah.
You know,
you can now, you can pick apart the...
Because remember when I started making, I had that one loop, and I was like, oh, like, what do I do with this? And you're like, oh, you just hide it. You just hide the break. Remember, you're like, add a kick drum on the break where it repeats, so that we won't even tell. Yeah. And then, like, if you listen to the original loop, it's like you can tell that it's chopped, like, there's a chop. Yeah. But then I added all these layers to it. It's like, oh, it sounds like one full beat now. It's like, yeah, because I hit it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the tricks. Those are the...
But they're all doing it. And, like, it's so fascinating, too, stuff like lo-fi beats, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, what's lo-fi? And I've been watching, like, these videos, and it's like lo-fi is just you take the high end off. So like, you know how, like, things are like like the treble, you take the treble off, so it's just low. It's all low, so it sounds like it's underwater.
Right.
That's why it's lo-fi.
Okay.
Fascinating, right? It's it's just like these little tricks, you know, that put you into different things. Like one of the other ones is like, oh, everyone's like, oh, you gotta get that 808, and I was like, is 808 like a drum like pattern? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I thought. And then, like, I watched a full video like on like what is an 808, and 808 is like the kick drum, but it's a style of kick drum.
Right.
You know, it's not like real kick drums on an actual drum set. They echo.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like you can't hide the echo. Mm-hmm. But like with an electronic drum, you can cut off the echo. So it's just like, doof. It's short. Whereas like an actual kick drum is like, doof, doof, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Fascinating, right?
Yeah,
and like,
cool.
So like what this really gets me into thinking about is like what a pirate culture we grew up in. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really... Like even doing these like beats now, it's like, and then my Photoshop tricks, like, it's like, this is kind of the age of piracy, but we don't really consider it piracy. Like streaming is a pirate thing.
Right.
Remember, like downloading music was so like illegal.
Yeah.
And then they just made it a thing now. It's like, but yeah, we grew up in that age where it's like, if it's not online, I'm gonna, like, if you have to pay for it, I'm going to find a way to steal it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
If it's online, you know, like Kazaa and like Napster and stuff. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And that's so like normal.
Yeah, I mean, that shifted the whole industry, right? These things.
And it had to like catch up. But what I'm trying to figure out right now, like personally, is like, where did it... Oh, maybe it was the internet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because when the internet started, that's when like you really saw piracy take off. You know? Because like even like in terms of piracy, it's like having these like old style like records of like things that you would have not even expected were a song before, or like songs before. You know, like Maria Maria, there's this like Rihanna song now that's like it's using the Maria Maria song from back when like the 90s when we were kids.
Okay.
And then like my cousins were like, oh, I didn't know that this was sampled. They thought that was made. They thought that it was made new for this specific song.
Right.
You know? And it's like, oh, that's the world of illusion. If you don't know what, like, I feel like knowledge is the great equalizer. Because if you knew, then it's like, you know what they're doing, and there's no more mystique to anything.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's sort of like that like Bible thing where it's like they got cast out of the Garden of Eden because of knowledge. Yeah. Because like when you're young and like you don't know anything, everything's like a magic trick, you know. But then like when you start to understand through knowledge what's happening, it's sort of like the magic and allure is gone.
Right.
So then you have to refine that again in life. You have to find like where's the magic hidden, you know, and that's like returning back to the Garden of Eden kind of thing.
I see.
You know, I made that up. I don't actually think that's like the actual interpretation, but that's my interpretation of it. Oh, okay. So like, yeah.
Right. That's
I don't know, like, yeah. You were saying that your songs, like Eminem songs that you didn't know?
Yeah, I like sometimes because he did sample like rock songs and stuff. So like it was like, I think one time I remember I just listened to the radio. I'm like, oh, that's the Eminem one. Then it's like, oh, it's not. It's something else. So I was like, oh, that's where he got it from. Like that was like, that was not necessarily a shock, but more like a learning thing. Like, oh, cool, like that's what he's doing.
Right, and then it like gives validation to what it is you were doing before.
Yeah,
or it's like you're remixing something.
Right.
And it's weird. The thing that I like about producers is that they're like solely built off their laptop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they go into production studios and there's all this equipment there, but then they just pull out their laptop and like that's all you're doing. You know, anybody could do it. That's what I just watched this video.
Yeah, all the ones that are on Genius, all I see is their like it's a great ad for Apple.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually so true. Yeah, but see, that's the genius of Steve Jobs. It's like genius on genius. That's the genius of Steve Jobs because it's like he always wanted to make music. Oh no, make creativity simple for people, right? He's like, we shouldn't make technology difficult because how can you be creative?
Yeah,
you know, and like playing in GarageBand is just like the younger version of Logic. Yeah. But then you get like other programs that we've tried, which are so hard, you know, like Fruity Loops is so hard.
Yeah. But these are like maybe like older programs that were structured around like old.
For sure, totally. It's sort of like Final Cut Pro 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Everyone like if you're into like creating videos, back when I was like starting to make videos, I was doing them all in iMovie, right? And then like everything was like, oh, you're not an actual video producer unless you like cut them on Final Cut Pro 7 or Final Cut Pro 8. Yeah. Those were like industry standards, right? And then Final Cut Pro 10 came out and it was just iMovie's big brother.
Right.
You know, and it's like, but then people were like, oh, I don't like this. It's not, but I'm like, why would you want something to be so difficult? Like, why? Because I've tried Final Cut Pro 7. I'm like, just simply making a simple cut and moving a video around is so difficult.
Right.
But like to do it in iMovie, in Final Cut Pro 10, which is basically iMovie, it's like slice, drag, drop, it automatically
maybe it was more of them being afraid of
change
and losing jobs because now most people can.
Totally. And that's what they were saying with, I watched this other, it wasn't on Genius, it was on The Verge. This guy was saying like, technology is the great equalizer because it's like, it's everywhere and it's so simple.
Yeah.
It's like, we're just really looking for talent now.
Right.
Has nothing to do with your technical skill anymore. It's like, what is your creative level?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, like fascinating.
I think so. Yeah.
And like the video I saw on like Genius, this kid was in high school and it went like, it's like a super viral song. I've never heard the song before, but it was like super viral. It's like this Mexican song. I don't know if you've heard it. Anyways, he was saying how he made that in his like class. He finished all his homework and he had 10 minutes left. So he's like, let me just make a beat.
Right.
And then he sent it to this guy. He's never met the guy. And then the guy was like, oh yeah, I'm going to use the track. And he's like, all right, cool. And then that song like went world renowned.
Oh wow!
Like Wiz Khalifa was like playing it, and like all these other people were like playing it on their Instagrams because it's so like catchy.
Right.
But he made that in 10 minutes. He started it in 10 minutes, or maybe he did finish it in 10 minutes.
I mean, sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes all this inspiration comes at you, and then you're just. It seems like I just finished in 10 minutes, but it was like you're in a zone.
Right. That's true too. It's like this is what I tell like everyone that like I'm working with, like, because they're always like, oh, do you work well in like fast environments or whatever, or like you know that like typical job thing where they ask you like those kinds of questions, like so I always tell them like it's not really about the execution because I can execute really fast, but it's like the creative process of thinking about what am I going to create.
Yeah,
you know, so like that kid might have done it in 10 minutes, but he probably had that beat in his head already.
Yeah,
he just had to put it together now.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole creative process is not just like the actual production period, but like how long has it been? Like even like looking at SoundCloud, and like, oh, the last beat that I put up was like 7 years ago. But then like I was like, oh, my creativity level has gotten so much better that like the music that I'm making now is way better than the first stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's like because creativity is just a muscle. You know what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with like your ability to use the program. It's like, what do you want to create?
Right.
You know, like what kind of eye are you using? Yeah. Oh, it's like fascinating.
Interesting. Yeah. And
it's fascinating that all these people got like super big off of like sampling, like artists.
Right.
You know, like a lot of the songs, like 99% of the songs that you love are sampled.
Yeah.
You know, they're just like remixed.
So who are the ones making those original samples?
Like the 70s people. Like
I know.
70s. And it's always obscure. They're always like, oh, I bought this $2 CD and it had like this like song on it. I'm like, this $2 CD that nobody would have ever listened to, but you listened to it.
See,
looking for samples.
Like when I had that one program that had samples on it, and I was like, wait, I didn't make this, so I was like,
I'm cheating.
I'm like, that's what I felt like. Yeah, I was like, but it sounds cool. But it's like,
totally.
Do I get full credit for this or
no? They actually did pay. They have to go.
No. I know. But it's like, no, you're paying for the samples already, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
there was were you watching it with me? But like the Biggie one where they created the song and then they called the artist and they're like, hey, we need this track for our song, and then like they kept getting refusals. Like Puff Daddy, like he asked for it, they said no. And this like huge record producer asked for it, they said no. And then like they're just like, all right, screw it, we're just gonna recreate it ourselves. You know, so like sometimes you actually just can't get the sample off. The rights to the sample.
Right.
But it makes sense now. Like when you watch those videos, when they go to like old record stores, they're going to old record stores listening for samples that they can steal.
Right.
But see, like I do that stuff all the time for like Photoshop too. It's like I'll Google something and I'll be like, oh, I like the way this looks. I'll take this piece from it.
Yeah.
And then like I'll find another thing. Like a lot of the logos that I make are just like layers. Like they're just like edits using other images. You know, I'm not actually drawing anything out. I'm just like taking pieces and like moving them around. You know, like you just download a font from dafont.com. You know, you're like, all right, that's free. Right. And then you're like, oh, this one looks cool. All right, let me put like a slash through. Like that's how I made the God Light My Fire like banner.
Yeah.
I just took a font and then I was like, okay, let me make it look like I cut through it. So I took like a line and then I like deleted that line from the font. But now you think like, oh, he drew that or something. It's like, no, I like went to dafont.com, got the free font.
Right.
You know. But I'm finding that's actually what they do in business world too. It's like, that's why I'm like being so agile and good in it. Because like everyone does that. They all like take from something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No one makes.
Even those promotional videos, you just look for license-free music and then you cut a promotional video. You don't have to pay anyone. The only downside is those tracks are trash. But like it's free, so it's like, okay, well, I'll just use it.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Eh?
Yeah, it is all interesting.
But I feel like,
I wonder how many people even knew about that, like the sampling stuff. And
that's what I'm saying. That's why I thought it'd be a really cool topic, because it's like you're demystifying the mystical at this point, because you're like, wow, that looks so cool. It's like, no, there's actually a lot of ordinary in that extraordinary. You know, but then you have to go back to the fact that ordinary was extraordinary. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, oh, that looks so cool. Actually, it's done like this. Like you're seeing how the magic trick works. But then you have to go back and appreciate the fact that you got fooled by that magic trick, and here are the ways to do it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I feel that that's what makes like a really resilient, creative, capable person. Somebody who's able to be like, okay, that's the issue. Let me figure out how to fix it. You know?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think that's like a special breed of person that's like willing to look into like I feel like that's dying. Like this whole piracy thing, like this whole like kind of generation. It's like going away, or maybe they're just like, I'm not associated with it anymore.
Piracy generation.
Like creative problem solving. Let's call that. It's not really piracy, but it's like creative problem solving. By any means necessary. It
might be just like, but something else new will come out, right? Like,
for sure, but it's like if you're born with technology, you don't have to understand how to relearn how to use technology.
There will be some part of that. Maybe it shifts to
because there was such a shift during our time. It's like, okay, you better learn how to use technology. Whereas like our parents are like, I don't understand how this works, right? But then But like in this generation, they've become like the plateau, just like our parents were. You know, then something new will come along. It's like, then they'll have to relearn it. But like at this point, there's nothing to relearn. So it's like you don't understand how to learn.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People are like losing the ability to learn how to learn.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Because there's always new technologies. Maybe people will.
True. Yeah.
That's also possible.
I also heard this at DEF CON, this kid hacked the Pentagon in 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
she's like 12 years old, 11 years old.
Yeah. So there's like still possible of that happening, right?
True. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting world.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where we go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the biggest takeaway is like learn how to learn, because at that point you can learn anything. I think if you learn your learning style, you'll be better capable of learning how to learn.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like, so, like this actually came up like last week. Somebody was like trying to explain something to me, like what they need solved, and I was like, okay, hold on, like let me just grab a piece of paper and a pen. They're like, oh no, it's on this Excel spreadsheet, and I'm like, no, but this is how I figure it out. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And then by drawing it out myself, I figured it out.
Right.
You know, here's the solution, right? But it's like by learning how I learn,
or what works for you. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Then it's like, no, I can't understand what you're saying through like saying I need to like visually see it.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. That's like the skill you have to like figure out like what works for you, right?
Yeah, it's like a lot of self-awareness stuff, you know. But I've done those quizzes before too, though, so it's like, those like, what's your learning style?
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a good one. Next week we're gonna see. Any final thoughts on sampling?
No.
Do you think they're legitimate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're still you're not like they're still manipulating it. They're still changing it. They're still doing things that make it sound cooler than the original sample.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Stamp of approval from Vish. I don't know if I would call them musicians. I think like the rapper's a musician. I think they're just like
producers.
They're just producers.
But that's their name, right? They are producers.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. It's true. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next week we're gonna go to Fan Expo again. Went last year.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of good art there, so I'm pretty stoked about that. So we'll probably do a podcast on Fan Expo.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So get out there, download some pirated programs, and start learning, because this stuff costs money. Actually, GarageBand's free, so.
Yeah, I mean, start
with free stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I did. That's
true. Yeah. Yeah, because it's like that's the biggest question. Is like, where do you start then? There's all these free alternate programs, like Photoshop's got GIMP.
Yeah.
Fruity Loops, the one I tried was LMMS. GarageBand's free. iMovie's free, so if you want to like edit movies, iMovie's basically Final Cut Pro 10. A lot of these free versions have like a big brother with just more features, but like the interface is the same.
Yeah,
I've noticed too that all interfaces are pretty, like if you know what you're looking for, all interfaces are generally the same. You know. Yeah, because I've like worked on like a lot of like websites, so I understand how like interfaces work. And then like somebody asked me like, oh, I need this like design made for this page, and I'd never used the program before, but I was like, okay. And then like I did it for them, and they're like, holy crap, this is like amazing. But it's like, yeah, just because I know where to go to find this stuff, you know. It's like, okay, I need to swap the header image. Where is it located?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was reading this The Heart of Kendo book, and they're saying like it's all about learning the principles, because from that point you can like, well, the fundamentals, I translate it as the principles. You know what I'm saying? Because like learning how to learn is a principle or a fundamental, because then you can take that with you everywhere. Don't get like caught up in like the little things.
Yeah.
Just look at the bigger picture of like what's really going on.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because then what are you going to do if they introduce an update? You're screwed. You know, like, right? And they're like, oh, the interface totally changed. And it's like, okay, so just figure out where everything is. But the thing you're trying to get to, you know, don't look at the roadmap. Look at like the destination or whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. Yeah. All right. Till next time. Take it easy.
Cool.
Be creative.
Peace.